Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about our perceived limitations and how they don't actually need to be a hindrance in our lives. That if we look at them with the right perspective, we can actually use them to deepen our understanding of ourselves and then maybe move through them into growth and learning. So if you look at when you perceive a limitation in yourself, it's almost always based on a comparison. You're comparing yourself to what other people are capable of doing, or to expectations that were set by, who knows, parents, school, society, or on those shoulds of what I should be capable of doing, or how I should be showing up in the world. And comparisons never serve us well because they don't really deepen an understanding of our own being, and they don't look at self with love and compassion that kind of builds our own growth and learning. All comparisons do is make us feel bad about ourselves. And we look at other people and we say, well, that's what I should be doing, or that's what I would like to be able to do. And that keeps us away from the connection of understanding what we are capable of doing. So all we can see is lack in those moments of comparison, what you're unable to do, how you're different from the norm. So comparison is what we need to let go of as we're changing our relationship to our limits. And I know this for myself because, going through injury and even illness, I've had a lot of limitation in my life of what I can do physically. And if I just focus on myself and what I am capable of doing, then I can work with the situation and I can take the next right step into developing new passions towards new activities or new steps towards healing. But when I slip into comparison and I look at, well, everybody else at my age is capable of skiing a full day and doing all this housework and doing their yoga and bending forward with no problem, what's wrong with me? And I start seeing it as a real limitation, and I start getting really frustrated because I want to be normal. I want to be able to do everything that everybody else is capable of doing. And I look at it as a limitation on myself. But if I stop comparing and I stop just looking at the people that can do these things and I focus inward on what is this showing me about myself and how is this deepening an understanding about me and my body and my relationship to movement and activity and doing, then I can start to see that in fact it's really serving me quite well to develop new ways of approaching activity and my body that kind of develops a healthier relationship to activity based on my personality and my needs. And then I can start working on developing new kind of exercise routines or new passions that fit with what my body is able to do. And what that ended up doing for me, which is still a challenge, but it really does show me different passions that I have and my kind of truer way of being in the world. Because that expectation that I should be able to be active all the time and pushing physically out in the world kept me away from some of the other sides of my being that were more artistic, that were a little bit slower, that enjoyed kind of the more peaceful pace of life. And if I had never had these limitations, I never would have engaged with these sides of myself. So we can think about that in the same way of any limitation. If you're looking at it as a comparison that I should be able to keep up with everyone else, if it's an intelligence thing or a skill set thing or a speech thing or a focus thing, whatever it is for you that you've been perceiving as a limitation, look at that. Are you seeing it and comparing yourself to other people and then judging yourself on you having to do things a little bit differently? But you can shift that. And then instead of looking at what you can't do, start focusing on what does this enhance in your life? What does this point to that can help you learn a new skill or a new way of being with yourself that in fact might serve you and the world even better? There have been so many people with what have been labeled as learning disabilities that have ended up contributing amazing discoveries and amazing insights into the world. Because instead of sitting there and fighting their reality and trying to be like everybody else, they leaned in to their state of being, to what they were capable of, to how they related to the world. And what each and every one of us has to offer is really valuable. And leaning into it and engaging with it helps you to strengthen those sides of yourself and start to see the ways that they can contribute back into the world. So instead of judging yourself and seeing these things as limitations or negativities about yourself, you can start looking at them as possibilities for what does this mean about my uniqueness? And maybe your limitation kind of forces you to take an approach to some activity or some learning or some creation that is a new insight, that's a more useful way of looking at things. That if you could just do them like everyone else, you'd end up in the same place as everyone else, which is very ordinary. But if you lean into what makes you unique and don't call it a limitation, call it an opportunity to see things differently, to engage with things differently, then maybe you'll find that the different approach that you have to take to whatever that is, your physical activity, your learning, actually leads to something miraculous and a new insight or discovery that's unique to you, that serves the world even better. And you can also think about these as if we're not looking at them so negatively and we're not trying to just hide them or stuff them away, but we lean in. It can also help us with growth because it encourages us to pursue new learning or new skill sets or new activities that fuel who we are and our unique way of being in the world. And that pursuit of finding ways to work through these challenges instead of just writing it off as a limitation actually helps us to grow and become bigger and more expansive and turn into this kind of more productive, valuable, worthy version of ourselves. So limitations do not need to be a hindrance in your life. They can help you to discover your true contributions and your unique way of being in this world. So this week, I invite you to look into your limitations, what you've been labeling yourself as not good enough or not like everyone else or not as good as everyone else. And start looking at them as possibilities. What does this mean about me? And how could I take a different approach to this that works well for me? And then how could I learn from that and expand from that and maybe serve myself and the world even better? If you enjoy these little talks and would like to join us for a group mindfulness session or individual coaching, please visit us at newleafmindfulness.com, and don't forget to like and share. I hope to see you all very soon.